Okay, gang, in studio, as we promised, my friend, an amazing dude, and the owner of like the coolest restaurant in town, Taylor Snelling of Mezzaluna. Good morning, buddy. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Taylor, we got to do a journey before we talk about Mez, right? We got to talk about how we became friends. It started off. You were working at Mezzaluna.
Yep.
Back in the day, you were kind of the host, the concierge, the guy that ran the show, right?
Yep.
And this was prior to you owning it, but you were smitten. You were a smitten kitten for a fine young gal named Val. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely correct.
It was 10 years ago, almost to the day, that your wife and I did mission work down in Haiti together. It was a group of 15 of us that went, and that's when I got to know Val. So I knew Val before I knew you. I already loved Val and appreciated her, and then she started crushing on this weirdo at Mezzaluna. Is that how the story went?
That's pretty much how the story went, and we met there too.
You did?
Yep, at the bar rail. I was bartending.
Okay, so you were the Tom Cruise of cocktail, slinging drinks and wooing Elizabeth Shue. Is that right, Elizabeth Shue? Yep.
I mean, that's how my memory serves me.
And
Not so much about her.
Okay, yeah. Val is such a tremendous woman, and you two are now proud parents. Is that right?
That is correct.
Tell us about your family.
So our little girl, Vera, she is just over a year old. I mean, obviously, right now we're going through a pandemic, and for the restaurants, it's really hard. But I don't think I would have been as successful navigating this without them at home.
They are. I haven't met your daughter, but obviously your wife is a friend of mine, and I just have nothing but love and respect. And then you guys even bought a house from us too. And my favorite thing about when you bought the house is that you gave me a closing gift. Tell us that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So every time that Eric walks in the restaurants and/or leaves the restaurant. We always have the Andes mints out at our host stand, and Eric would always be the one to upend the bowl of Andes mints onto the desk. That's either one how I knew that Eric had been there or left.
It's like Zorro leaving his sign.
Yeah.
Right?
So when we closed with Tyler, I was like, Tyler, we have to do this. You know, I spent $100 in Andes mints. If you want to know how much that will buy you, it's about 10,000 single Andes mints.
Money well spent, dude. That's so great.
And this was almost perfect too, because I went in, put it all over your desk, and I was walking out with the box when you walked in to the building. So we were chatting, and I just have this box here that I'm trying to hold behind my back.
I'm ignoring it completely.
Ignoring it completely.
And so I walk into my office, and you like follow suit, giggling like a schoolgirl. It was really great. Taylor, we could talk about Andes Mints, and I'd be happy to fill our segment here. But I want to know, how is Mezzaluna doing? Mezzaluna, fine dining restaurant, downtown Fargo, on Robert Street. It is my favorite restaurant in town. Your happy hour is supreme. Your food is unmatched. Your drinks are so perfect. But it's a pandemic, and you own a restaurant. How you doing?
We're holding in there. So obviously this whole thing was, the day that we shut down, we dreamt about the day that we'd open again.
Mm-hmm.
And those were some really lonely weeks with only a couple people in the building doing takeout, stuff like that. So it was easy for us to start planning of how we're going to open again.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say for the last 2.5 months, we've been pretty consistent week in and week out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been really great.
At capacity, which is 50% capacity, right?
It's 75% capacity.
It is, okay.
But the way that our tables are spaced out, because we still have to respect the 6 feet rule between tables, even when we've been at our busiest, we're hitting just over 50%.
Okay.
So we feel really safe about having people in the building, in our space. Everyone's distanced.
Mm-hmm.
It feels good. You feel safe when you're in there. But yeah, we're definitely not hitting, the 75% capacity.
Well, my wife and I did dinner at Mez just a couple of weeks ago, and it was, first of all, it was nice to be back. If I have to do another carryout meal, I'm going to be pretty frustrated, and so it was nice to be back. I can't say enough about how well your staff had adjusted in the midst of the pandemic. Everybody was masked. Everything was perfectly served. There was space between us and other tables. It felt safe and clean in there, and I know you've worked really hard to make that happen.
Absolutely. And I mean, it was not just me, but it was everyone in the kitchen. It was our restaurant manager. We all had a say. We all had an input. We were all looking and seeing what was going on in other markets. and just trying to see how we can still provide an experience
Mm-hmm.
and keep a little normalcy
Right.
or make it feel that way while still, trying to provide tons of value.
Folks, those of you tuning in, we have Taylor Snelling, owner of Mezzaluna Restaurant, joining us here. And Taylor, when I talked with you in the restaurant a couple of weeks ago, you had shared with me that this has just been an interesting shift because you said Mezzaluna has three main things that it offers. And I remember this, it stuck with me. You said it has the food, it has the ambiance, and it has
The service.
the service. Thank you. Yeah, there I go. I said it stuck with me, and then I just a little Freudian slip there in my head. So the food, the ambience, and the service. And if you do car side, you're getting the food, but you're also getting it in to-go containers, which takes away from some of the ambiance. And it's a difficult thing for a fine dining restaurant to shift. Pizza places have done exceedingly well. Mezzaluna has been having to reinvent itself. And so how have you reinvented yourself, Taylor?
So on the back end, we've really had to, change our business model a little bit. I've been living and dying in the numbers recently because the old fine dining model was, you have high inventory and the only way to make that money back is by having tons of people in the building. Fridays and Saturdays is where we were making our money before, and that's, the bar rail,
Yep.
too deep, people waiting for tables. So we've really had to see what else is out there. And like you mentioned, our happy hour, we're not doing happy hour right now.
Yep.
Because that was highway robbery.
Yeah.
It
Which is why I love it, Taylor.
Which was great. And it made sense back then. But now we just can't see those numbers working for us.
Mm-hmm. So you've had to shift, you've had to pivot, and I can just say this is as somebody who's in real estate, as somebody who pays very close attention to businesses and what's happening, my unfortunate prediction, and I wonder where you stand on this, but I think 25 to 40% of all restaurants aren't going to make it through the pandemic. And I don't know where you sit on that. Is that high? Is that low for what you're feeling?
I think that could definitely be there because if we're talking, they're still going to be in this position 6 months to a year from now.
Yeah,
that's going to be really hard to manage. Especially, it sounded like North Dakota did really well getting like PPP loans, which doesn't exactly work so much for the restaurant industry, especially if you have to be shut down.
Right.
But if you're in other states where if you didn't necessarily do so well, I don't know how you'll be able to maintain for that long. It's just, the long game is just too long.
Well, gang, if you haven't ever been to Mezzaluna, I'll tell you this. It felt as safe as I could find in any restaurant in town. And I get the privilege of experiencing a lot of restaurants. And I can say with confidence, Mezzaluna is my favorite. And I can also say that through the pandemic, it has stayed exceedingly safe and clean. And the food is just so pristine. And so if you are going to venture out, you get a choice of almost anywhere in town. I want to encourage you to check out Mezzaluna. Taylor, I think what you're doing over there is special. I think that place has a legacy here, and I hope it's here for years and years to come.
Thank you, me as well. We're going to keep on working hard to make sure that happens.
And again, you go and you say Erik sent you, and you're not going to get anything free, but at least Taylor will know that you heard it. I'm hoping to go and get something free besides Andy's Mints. And maybe if I have you on the radio a couple more times, we'll make that happen. Sound like a deal?
Sounds like a deal.
I'll do anything for free food. This is great. Taylor Snelling of Mezzaluna. Folks, check it out. And if you're looking for some properties or perusing on where to live in town, head to hatchrealty.com. We're going to go to the break. This is Real Estate Radio with Erik Hatch.